Um, yeah, I will talk about the rights of minorities in Syria as continuing struggle, especially for Kurds. I am also Kurdish from Afrin, Syria, living in Germany. I work like also a journalist, so it's very important to me to talk here. Thank you. Syria, a land of rich diversity, has long been home to a mosaic of communities, including Kurds, Assyrian, Armenian, Druze, and others. Despite the diversity, minorities in Syria have faced systemic marginalization and denial of their basic rights. A situation that has been compounded by the ongoing conflict, from the restriction of language rights and forced displacement. Minorities have borne the brunt of police and aim to erase their identities. Among these minorities, the Kurdish community, the largest ethnic minority in Syria, has faced unparalleled repression. Systemic discrimination have included bans on the Kurdish language, the confiscation of land, and the stripping of citizenship from tens of thousands of Kurds in Al Jazeera, especially. In deliberate policy of forced Arabization. In deliberate policy of forced Arabization. In September 2016, the Syrian High Negations Community, HNC, representing the opposition, unveiled a plan for political transition in Syria, aiming to end the country's 5-year civil war. This plan outlined 3 main phases: 6 months of negotiations and ceasefire, the formation of transitional government following the removal of President Bashar al-Assad, and drafting a new constitution followed by UN-supervised elections after 18 months of transitional governance. Despite claiming a commitment to the 2012 Geneva Community's principle of equality and non-discrimination, the HNC's transitional plan include provisions that contradicted the vision of an inclusive society. The first general principle of the HNC failed to address Syria's historical imbalance and neglected to lay the groundwork for institutional reform. Instead, the principle state. I will read it. Syria is an integral part of the Arab homeland, and Arabic is the official language of the state. Arab Islamic culture provides the fertile source for intellectual production and social relations among Syrians of different ethnic and religious affiliations, where the majority of Syrians belong to Arabism and practice Islam, a religion of tolerance characterized by moderation and balance. By adopting this principle, the HNC implicitly endorsed the tyranny of the majority, as described by Alice de Tocqueville, I don't know if I spell it correct, where he said obedience is imposed by force rather than by justice. Tocqueville argued for a distinct legal principle to construct the tendencies of majority tyranny, asserting there is a general law bearing the character of justice, which was established and affirmed not by the majority of people, but by the majority of mankind. The rights of every people are thus included in what is just. The Turkish occupation and Syrian opposition factions. Entry into Afrin, for example, my hometown, which began with Operation Olive Branch for Peace, on January on January 2018, and culminated the occupation of Afrin on March 18th of March 2018. Marked the start of systemic human rights abuses. Afrin, once a stable region, has since been subjected to violations targeting its native Kurdish population. These include: 1. Cultural erasure. Kurdish language education has been abolished, replaced with Turkish and Arabic curricula, marginalizing the region's Kurdish identity. Village and street names have been changed from Kurdish to Turkish in an effort to erase their historical roots and leaders. Historical and cultural sites, including religious shrines, have been destroyed. Yazidi shrines have been destroyed or distracted. Demographic engineering. More than 70% of Afrini's Kurdish population has been forcibly displaced, replaced by settlers from other parts of Syria, but also Palestinian. A systematic effort has been made to alter the demographic makeup of Afrin, further marginalization its native Kurdish inhabitants. When we talk about human rights abuses, civilians have been subjected to arbitrary arrests, and it's not easy to talk about that, you know? Killings often targeting women and their elderly. Numerous reports have documented cases of sexual violence and rape committed by Syrian opposition factions supported by the Turkish military. Displaced Kurdish families face the ongoing threat of violence with no viable means of returning to their homes. Simply, you don't have any documents anymore. Environmental destruction. Afrin, famous for its olive trees, has suffered massive deforestation. Syrian opposition factions have cut down or burned tens of thousands of olive trees, devastating the livelihoods of Kurdish farmers. Olive oil, a vital part of Afrin's economy, is being loaded and exported to Turkey and signed with made in Turkey, depriving locals for their main source of incomes. Administrative change and identity urge. Turkey has replaced Syrian civil registration with a system of identification cards issued in Turkish and Arabic, just without Kurdish, erasing Kurdish identity from official documentation. Birth, marriage, and death certificates no longer reflected the original residence or Kurdish heritage of the population, effectively eliminating their legal and cultural ties to Afrin. Extending violations to Ras Al Ain. Ras Al Ain is another city in Al Jazeera. The Turkish occupation and Syrian opposition factions inclusion into Ras Al Ain, Sarikaniye in Kurdish, during Operation Peace Spring. The name is very creative. Launched on October 9, 2019. Brought similar patterns of abuse like in Afrin for displacement. Thousands of Kurdish families in Ras Al Ain have been uprooted, their homes and lands seized by settlers loyal to Turkey. Many have been left to live dire conditions in internally displaced persons, IDP camps. Gender-based violence, women also the same in these regions faced heightened risks of violence with documented case of rape violations in Ras Al Ain, in Sarikaniye. I will talk a little bit more about the attacks on Shahba camp and displaced populations, so also refugees are suffering from these violations. The plight of displaced Kurds doesn't end with displacement. The Shahba camp, housing many families who fled Afrin. Shahba camp is in Tel Rafat, also in the northern of Syria, has been subjected to repeated shelling by Turkish force. These attacks deliberately target civilians, including women, children, and the elderly, compounding their suffering and violation of international humanitarian law. If I can just say it, a call to action, I would like to say that this systemic violations against Kurdish communities in Afrin, Ras Al Ain, and beyond amount to an egregious assault on human dignity, cultural heritage and international law. These actions are basically part of deliberate effort to erase Kurdish identity through cultural separation, demographic change, and violent oppression. We call upon the international community to investigate and document these crimes and ensure accountability for perpetrators and pressure Turkey to cease its military operations and withdraw from occupied territory. I'm not allowed to say that, but yes. No, okay. Support displaced Kurdish populations in regaining their homes and livelihoods with guarantees of safety and dignity, and protect the cultural rights of all minorities in Syria, including Kurds, recognizing these rights as integral to justice and peace. Because minority rights are not negotiable, they are the foundation of any just and inclusive society. Without addressing the rights of Kurds and other minorities groups, there can be no lasting peace in Syria ever. Thank you very much.